For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? I'm celebrating a Broadway legend, Kurt Peterson. I'm so thrilled that he's here tonight. And you can see on the bottom of my screen a wonderful quote of his. And it says, "I'm a big cheerleader for people remembering people." And so am I. I want to talk a little bit about my mentor. And that was Miss Florence Epps in my hometown of South Carolina. I actually have a photograph. She had a playhouse in her backyard. And when I was a kid, I used to go into her playhouse, and she used to teach me the classics, and she would teach me about great artists. And if I didn't know a particular name of someone, she would stop me and she would say, "When I see you again, make sure you know who these people are." Because she believed that every time I stepped on stage and now in front of a camera, it's important that we carry the mantle of all that have come before us with us. And Kurt has had the great pleasure of appearing with so many incredible people, but he is celebrating a lot of incredible women. And today we're going to talk about some of those women who have helped shape who he is, both as a person and as an artist. But before we bring him on, I'm going to give just a glimpse of this new show called Proud Ladies, and then we'll meet Kurt on the other side. Here he is. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Peterson. And his very proud ladies.
Baker, dear Baker, we all should kneel down to thank you for bringing treasures to town.
23 of the musical theater's most exciting women, and Kurt's special relationships with each.
Dorothy Collins, Yvonne DiCarlo, and Alexis Smith. A trio brilliantly cast in the musical Follies.
This is Kurt's musical memoir.
Good God! Get a load of those legs! It was Kate. I think she had an extra cocktail at sunset. 20 long years this fellow and I consider ourselves estranged. But in one little sunlit afternoon, the whole situation changed. I began to pressure her to pay more attention, spend more time with me, until one night while holding a chicken I was about to cook for her, I again tried to make her feel guilty for the time she spent away from me. And that was it. She was out the door, and I was left holding the chicken.
Proud Ladies is the incredible true story of a man who laughed, loved, and very much lived his creative and personal life in the company of some of the most talented and legendary women of the American theater.
And like it or not, you'll take me in your arms, and I will have my way. I'm in love again. I'm in love, and isn't it a crime? Isn't it a crying shame that the love of my life should have to be another man's wife? but I've finally found the one true love of my life. For the 23rd
Hello, Kurt. Welcome to the show. First of all, I want to say you've had the pleasure of working with all these incredible women, but they have had the pleasure of working with you.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
You are so worth celebrating. I just saw you just a couple of months ago when the ASA celebrated Stephen Schwartz, and you, as always, stopped the show. An incredible evening. So it was great to see you once again on stage. I begin all my shows by asking my guest, who or what are you celebrating? And obviously here you have a lot to celebrate. But beyond all this, what are you celebrating today?
Today, well, I'm just celebrating the fact that I'm still here. I am so grateful. You know, we talk about remembering people and keeping people in our hearts. The past couple of years, we've really lost a lot of special people. People I was so grateful to have the good fortune to have worked with early on and even a little bit later on. You know, off the top of my head, Harvey Evans.
Who was a dear friend.
Yes, dear Harvey. You know, Steve Sondheim, Hal Prince. Those two giants were major losses because I had the good fortune of working with both of them a lot, and it goes back to my dear partner Victoria Mallory, who we lost a few years back too, and I'd like to speak about that when I talk about Proud Ladies, because my work with her was instrumental in going back and being grateful for people in my life. And when we lost her, I just began to think that she wasn't the only one who really created me, who mentored me, and just so many stories of ladies who, at different points in my life, starting with the first days in New York, became a part of me and helped me along the way. And without them, I would not have had a career. Without them, I probably wouldn't be in New York. And that's where we start with Dina Merrill in my show, Proud Ladies, because if it wasn't for her giving me a scholarship to my little school, AMDA, I would have gone back to Wisconsin. I'd still be pumping gas at my father's filling station.
Well, I asked for a photograph of you as a young boy, and you did send a photograph, and I didn't realize until I went to upload it just before we went live that it was a PDF, and I had trouble uploading it. So I will have to get that photograph to everyone later. But I want to ask you about that 5-year-old boy, and the reason I asked for a photograph at that age is because to me, the 5-year-old self is the purest self. It's before life begins to tell you who you should be or who you shouldn't be. And I'd like to know about that little boy. Before the show began, I asked if there was anything you wanted to listen to. And you mentioned one of my favorite scores, that was Finian's Rainbow, as we were both listening to it as we were preparing to go live tonight. I grew up listening to these cast albums and many that you are appearing on. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I think I hope you can bring that picture up, because if you can bring that 5-year-old up, you'll see he's wearing a cowboy shirt. Do you know? And you know, I'm not from Montana. I'm from a little town in Wisconsin where they didn't have cowboys. But I think very early on, I always wanted to be something else. And I remember very early on asking my mother how you become an actor. And she didn't really have much of an answer, but so something very early on, I too, Richard, I believe that the child in us, the ethical child, is very pure, and And, fortunately, if we stay on the planet long enough and do the work, we get back to that place in ourselves now, and we can contact that child and make peace with them, even though we've had a bumpy road, along the way, which probably most of us have. Finian's Rainbow. I was in junior high school. I went to the high school production of Finian's Rainbow, and my jaw dropped. I had never seen a musical. I had never listened to a show album. Nothing. And I was painting sets the next day. The next show I saw was in high school was Cinderella, the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. And then I was a shy kid, and I didn't know if I could sing or do anything. And so one day I hope my sister's listening, because one day I was singing at the sink as we were washing the dishes together, and she said I was a little breathy and a little flat. And I was crushed because she was in the choir. And so I went down in the basement for about 2 years, and I put on LPs, and primarily Broadway shows, sang along with them, came out 2 years later and auditioned for the High School Musical, and I got it.
Good for you.
The first one was
So thank your sister for saying that to you.
I do. We get these teachers along the way, and whatever the lessons are, if we listen to them, we grow. And my first show was The Boyfriend, and I played Bobby Van Heusen. And I did The Pajama Game, doing John Ray's role, and in Little Abner I was General Bull Moose. So I became a character actor my senior year. I also, at that time, suggested to my choir teacher that we do West Side Story. And he said, "I'm so sorry, Jim," which my name was Jim back then, hence James William Productions. "I'm so sorry, Jim, but we have no one to sing Tony." So anyway.
Famous last words.
2 years later, when I was doing Tony at Lincoln Center, I got him a ticket, and I sat in between Leonard Bernstein and Richard Rodgers. So,
Now that is called
true
that
story.
is poetic justice right there. But I want to go back for a moment. There are a couple of things that you've just said that I really want to hone in on. One of the things that you said, I can speak for myself as a kid growing up in a small town in South Carolina. I did want to emerge and become somebody and something else other than what was there for me. And you said also at a young age that you wanted to be something else. Do you know what it was that pulled you in that direction?
Well, it was a little bumpy childhood. My parents loved me very much, but they also had an illness. My father was a drinker.
My father was too, Kurt.
My mother was an enabler. So the skills of relating and feeling and everything were not there in my home.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment?
Yeah.
Not only did you just describe my home, my childhood, but my birthday is the day before your birthday.
Oh no! Happy Aquarius.
February 11th, February 12th, right there. So,
And Abraham Lincoln.
yes, that's right. So, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just
very early on, I sort of went into fantasy land in my thinking, and so that, of course, brings you right into the theater too. I also think I had a very, very strong creative urge that I had as a kid, and I left right after high school. I went right to New York. I had something inside me that needed release and needed expression. And thank God I picked musical theater. I was supposed to be a chemical engineer. That would have been a complete disaster. I loved chemistry when you could send up rockets and blow up things, but the minute they brought math into it, I was paralyzed. So I'd have been a terrible chemist. And musical theater was it for me. I loved it.
So I want to talk about the scholarship that you got, because when you get this scholarship, and of course that is going to change the entire trajectory of your life and everything about you. Not knowing a lot about, the world that you were growing up in, but I know from my own experience that world of show business, going to New York, because I also left home at a very early age, right after high school, my parents could not relate to that world at all. So when you get this scholarship, How did your family and your parents relate to that?
Well, God bless them. They were very frightened. I left right after high school. I did an 8-week summer course at AMDA, which then was a school with 13 people. It was run by Philip Burton, and Dina Merrill was on the board. It was a wonderful school. I met my voice teacher, Paul Gabbard, there, and we had it was a wonderful school, but it was so much smaller than it is today. It's a conglomerate today. And I said to my father, I'll go just for the 8-week summer course, and then I'll come back and become a chemical engineer. Well, he paid for the 8-week summer course, but then when I came back and told him in the fall that I wanted to come back to New York in the fall, because I knew I was going to, I just fell in love with it. I needed some financial help. Mm-hmm. And the lady in the school, Joyce Worsley, she and Philip Burton were the head of the school, had gotten me in touch with Dina, because Vicki and I had sung at a couple of very big events with Dina Merrill, Cliff Robertson, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, because they were all on the board of the school because of Philip Burton being the father. And Dina took me under her wing and said, "You want to come back in the fall? I'll help you out." And she did. She became a dear, dear friend of mine. So without that, I don't think I would have had the... Anyway, she was the first one of the proud ladies that I celebrated in this show, and was one of the major ones, you know.
Well, I want to talk about Victoria for a moment, because I believe a little bit in destiny. And it's almost as if the two of you were destined to be on the path that you were on together, because you appeared in so many shows together, and you had this clear journey together. And I was listening today to your recording, and and I love the fact that she was auditioning and getting things, and you were jealous of that. And, and hearing your journey and your story together is just an amazing story. And that itself would make an incredible book.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning Vicki. She, of course, was, I met her the first day of school at AMDA, heard her sing and fell completely in love. She represented everything that I wanted. She represented family to me. She sang like an angel. She had studied ballet since the age of 2. She was a concert pianist. All the things I was so insecure about, she had. So I just needed her in my life. And so this kid from Wisconsin, and we got involved, and then it was on and off again a lot for 8 years. But fortunately, we did a lot of our shows together, including the big one that started us both off, which was the revival of West Side Story at Lincoln Center. And as you say, she had 5 auditions. I was so jealous. I wrangled an audition. I had 5 auditions, and we had the summer there. So, and I know you mentioned, I just wanted to mention When Everything Was Possible, which is the CD.
Which we are going to give away today.
We're going to give away tonight. And of course, there's Vicki. And that's a Ken Duncan photo. Ken was actually in the building. I'm still living during the week in the building here. Ken Duncan had just started doing theater photographs, and he was across the hall from my agent. So when I got West Side Story, Ken said, "Whoa, let me do the press shots." So he did the press shots for West Side Story and sold it to Lincoln Center, and got all these wonderful Ken Duncan photos, some of the earliest, much before the Red Shoes.
Oh, that one of my favorite books, by the way. I just absolutely love that. And but you hear that there's going to be a revival of West Side Story. And obviously you had wanted to do West Side Story back in your hometown, and you were told there's no one to sing that part of Tony. You hear that there's going to be a revival at Lincoln Center, and the wheels just start rolling. Do you believe in manifestation? Do you believe that you manifested your getting into that role?
Only 110%. When I was in high school, I built a set for West Side Story. Wanting to do it, I put the set next to my bed. And even though my teacher said he had no one to sing Tony, I think I created that. I created that. I was given the brochure for AMDA. I was just doing walk-ons at the University of Wisconsin summer stock at my junior year, and an actor from New York just happened to have a brochure from AMDA. He gave it to me. If he hadn't handed me that brochure, I would never have come to New York. Never. With West Side, as you say, Vicky had 5 auditions, and I kept telling her I can't sing Tony because I really couldn't. The reason I couldn't is because I didn't have that B flat in Maria. Okay? So when I did audition 5 times, they never made me sing the B flat in Maria. And I got the role because I had a really strong baritone voice, which could handle all the rest of the notes in the score. So one day they wanted me to sing Maria, and I got to the part where you go, Maria, Maria, and then go up to the B flat. I said, I just stopped. I said, well, I can't sing that note. And the music director looked at me and said, what do you can't sing that note? I said, no, I don't have a B flat. I'm a baritone. And so they did 2 things. They put me in with an opera coach who was a tenor, and it never worked. And then the second thing was that they called Lenny in, and Lenny wrote an obligato for me, and it sucked. It was something like, oh, Maria, oh, Maria. And Lenny said, this sucks. So what they did, was brilliant. They got 3 guys in the chorus who were tenors, and when the B flat came in, the thing, they were off stage on the microphone singing the B flat, and underneath them I did, Maria, I've just met a girl named Maria. And I did that reprise of that refrain while they were holding the B flat. And the audience thought I was singing 2 things at the same time. And it was so powerful. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Oh, that is amazing.
I didn't get fired for not having a B flat. And we even made it work better than it would have had I had a B flat.
So let's back up to getting the role. When you were handpicked to be in the show, Richard Rodgers and Leonard Bernstein, 2 of the giants of musical theater. Talk about the leap in, it's just an unbelievable story. I want to know what you learned from both of those gentlemen that you have carried through your entire life, both as an artist and as just Kurt Peterson, the human being.
Richard, maybe you can relate to this. Maybe other people out there can relate to this. I so wish I had a 74-year-old conscience and sensibility in that 20-year-old kid. I knew a bit of musical theater history because I loved it so much, but I had no idea of the depth of the work and the skill of somebody like a Richard Rodgers, or even Leonard Bernstein, and certainly Stephen Sondheim, Jerry Herman, all these people I was lucky enough to work with. I so wish I had more. I just wish
let me respond to that for a moment. I mean, of course, that comes with age and wisdom and all of that goes with that. Perhaps that takes some of the intimidation away from you as well. I mean, you as a young kid were eager to do a specific role, and it was just the specific role that you were going after, not realizing, perhaps you did, maybe not, I don't want to put words in your mouth, of the gravitas or the enormity of everything that went with that role. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. I couldn't play Tony, or I couldn't play young Ben in Follies if I had a 74-year-old knowledge and consciousness. We were hired because we were that age, and we had a limited consciousness, and we were young. And as I say in one of the lyrics in When Everything Was Possible, it's about being young and having the chances and the choices and the gift of being half awake is one of the lyrics I say. And And there is a gift in that. I mean, we're immortal at that age. We're totally immortal at that age. So it's a gift, and it's the qualities that make us hireable as juveniles and ingenues, for God's sake.
Now, what did getting this, iconic role at that point in your life, what did that do as far as your confidence and changing who you were in terms of how you began to pursue other projects? Because that will bring us to the next role that came along, and very interesting story around that as well I'd like to talk about.
Richard, I'm going to answer that question later. Vicky and I wrote a musical that we began even before When Everything Is Possible. It's called Dancing on the Moon, which is the real story. When Everything Is Possible is the surface story of what was going on. We wrote a musical called Dancing on the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And as we speak, it's in the hands of Andre Bishop, who is going to read it, because a lot of it takes place at Lincoln Center, where we do. So I'm just going to hold off on that just for a second, because it was a very mixed bag. I mean, I could give you sort of a rote answer. Well, that experience gave me enough strength to move to the next. That wasn't my journey. My journey was a little more bumpy, and my emotional self took a long time to catch up with my professional self. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Trust me, I've been down that path. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sure others have as well.
Yes, well, many have. But I want to, how long did that production run? And
11 weeks. Richard Rodgers had 4 summers there. He did King and I, Annie Get Your Gun, a West Side Story, and a South Pacific. No, in Oklahoma. Those 4. 3 were recorded. Ours wasn't recorded, but fortunately, there's a sort of a pirate tape from the audience that's out there, which is fun. But yeah, it was just 4 summers that he had that the thing, and it was 11 weeks during the summer, from June 24th up until September 9th. Great
and then
stuff.
when the show closed, how long of a period was there? I mean, in an artist career, especially in the theater, were opportunities starting to come your way? Were you pursuing other opportunities? What exactly was happening as far as your trajectory was concerned?
The last week of AMTA, when I auditioned for West Side Story, the last time and got it, I also got Dear World opposite Angela Lansbury the same week. So I figured this was how it was going to go from now on.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because
I bought a Jaguar.
very interesting story.
Car that had to sell the next year.
If you could put, for those who don't know, in perspective, what your mindset was going into this production based on Jerry Herman's previous 2 shows.
As I said, I bought a very expensive car because Jerry Herman had, 3 hits in a row, giant hits in a row, and Angela was in the last one. So I figured had it made until I read the big review from the, I don't know if it was the Times or the Tribune or whatever. It said, when bigger bombs are built, it'll be Broadway that builds them. And I said, oops, this car's not going to be with me long.
I mean, so early on in your career, I mean, the stories around that production are so legendary. Encores is about to do Dear World again.
Yes.
Dear World happens to be one of my favorite scores. And I had the great pleasure of interviewing Jerry Herman years ago. Yeah. And his regret, according to what he told me, was he wanted a chamber musical. And because of the success of MAME, and Hello Dolly, they wanted something bigger. Can you address that and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It started out with Lucia Victor directing, who was a stage manager for David Merrick, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, they got a little, I'm not sure exactly the timing, but we went up to Boston and opened, and it wasn't received really well. It said, Dear World spins dizzily. And at that point, then they start doing a little firing and whatever. And Lucia was gone, and Peter Glenville came in, I believe, at that point. And Peter wanted to make it into that chamber musical, and bring it down and put it a little bit like this. But as the changes were made, I think Alex Cohen and maybe, I'm not sure Jerry, but I know Alex and Angela got a little frightened, and they brought in Joe Layton. Now, when Joe Layton came in, Angela's dresses got shorter, the makeup became a little less. They started putting her on the program, her face from Maine rather than the Dear World. They got a little scared. There were a few more trumpets in the orchestra pit. There was more dancing because of Joe and stuff. So it had been pulled away from the smaller, more intimate thing, which Jerry, I think, always really wanted, and it probably was the right choice. But I think, you get out of town, and of course with the baker's wife, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, and people get a little frightened, and things happen, and that's what happened. Dear World was sort of a hybrid between a flashy Broadway musical and a little chamber musical too, so it never found its identity. But I love Jerry Herman. He's continually underrated, and this score is one of the most beautiful scores in the world for me. I'm so thrilled to have been a part of it.
Two iconic musicals that you absolutely were part of course, Dear World, and then there's The Baker's Wife, and all of the legendary stories that go with both of those. And you are in the eye of the hurricane or the tornado, so to speak, and you are observing and you are doing your job and trying to keep your head above water. How do you basically just step back and absorb what's going on without letting it essentially destroy you? Because the emotional turmoil, I can only imagine, it's difficult to let go of at the end of the day, and it continues the cycle. You have to go to the theater, you have to deliver. What gets you through a process like that?
Oh gosh, I guess just being grateful for a job, and even though your show is in trouble, and you're still in a big Broadway show, and you're playing opposite Angela Lansbury, and you're with her all night on stage. How wonderful is that? Even though you have at least one less number, It was quite an experience, and as I say, I thought we were going to run forever, and so it was a sobering and brought back down to reality, and the reality of the business, which is nothing is guaranteed. The Baker's Wife was a little bit more difficult, because the Baker's Wife, I had a really terrific role that I thought was going to put me on the map on Broadway with 3 great songs, and that was very painful. Yeah.
And as your career is starting to progress beyond these roles and everything, when did you feel grounded as Kurt Peterson? Or do you feel grounded as Kurt Peterson? This is an interesting profession to be in. And when did that moment happen for you?
Maybe 3 years ago. It's been a long process. That doesn't mean it didn't have when I say that, I think when you mean grounded, I think you mean really completely emotionally grounded. And that probably is 3 years ago. I've had a lot of issues going through, but I was able to do a lot of work while growing up, and had a lot of help growing up too. I started working in the business end of the business as a producer very early, because I wanted a little bit more control and more. I wanted to be able to choose and make things happen, rather than always be working for someone, to be at the mercy of shows that are going to happen and not. The first thing I did was raise money for Angela's Gypsy, and I raised a quarter of the capitalization with my friends Barry and Fritz, and then of course the Sondheim tribute, which I couldn't be prouder of, which is going to celebrate 50 years next March 11th, and we're in the process of trying to do something really special for it.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Our dear friend Josh Ellis is here watching. Hello, Josh.
Oh gosh!
We both love Josh. He says he wants to talk about the Triumphant Sondheim, a musical tribute. An amazing production, and what's happening with that now. And some people, we will never lose Sondheim, because he is such a major part of our consciousness. Company just closed, but Into the Woods is going strong and keeps extending, and he's very much a part of our Broadway heritage, and will continue to be so. And you had the great pleasure of knowing him as a friend, as a mentor, as a colleague. What can you tell us about Sondheim in terms of what you learned about working with him?
Well, he was a wonderful teacher. He was a wonderful teacher, and whenever you had a conversation about the theater, about things that would work, he was always so specific, and would give you his reasons why something would or would not work. Or it was always thought through so beautifully when you were in a conversation with him. But I think some of his best teaching is in his music and lyrics, and the way he approaches musical theater as a dramatist, and always, he was always late to the party with his music and lyrics, and it frustrated everyone who worked with him because he would last minute. But there was a reason for that, because he wanted to see the scenes in action. He wanted to see the sets. He wanted to see the costumes. Because his songs always came from context, and the later he could observe that context, the better he could write. Send in the Clowns is a perfect example. It was written very late, and it came out of a scene that Hal was improvising with Glynis and Len. And they were improvising, and Hal just was at the edge of his seat. He said, "Hold it, I got to call Steve." Because they had got to a certain point in that scene, and Hal knew that there had to be a song there. And so Steve came over in the next hour, saw the scene, wrote "Send in the Clowns," and it was there to sing the next morning. That's the dramatist that Stephen is. And I always believe that songs are served better when they come from context. And so that's why my show as Proud Ladies I set them all up. Every song I sing, I set up. And that's when everything was possible. Every song had a setup, because they earn the fact that they're being sung if you give them enough context. And the stronger the context, you've got the audience with you all the way. Some standards don't have to have context, but they do, in the sense that they're written because everyone has an unconscious story about the song. Whether it's Night and Day, or some of the other sort of standard songs. There's an implied context that people have in their unconsciousness that makes the song work. But in musical theater, you have the advantage of dialogue, of dance, of text, of music, of choreography, of set, of all of these wonderful elements to create this incredible power. When it's working, the cake is great, and when it's not working, it can be just awful. Carrie's an example of both. I saw all three performances of Carrie. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Wow. I want to talk about another genius in the theater that is just getting started, and that's Charles Kirsch. Because I so admire this kid and what he has created and what he is doing. And I know that you are going to be part of his celebration at 54 Below on September 6th. I'm going to be there
with a great group.
And you've been on his podcast show, and I bow to him and the work that he's doing. For those who don't know, your experience of doing his show and who this incredible kid is, who is just one of the best out there.
Well, you know, this comes on the heels of me telling me that I was half conscious at age 20. This kid is fully conscious at age 13, now turned 14. How wonderful! How wonderful! You know, and it reinforces my. I don't know if the word is reincarnation, but I know that we all have this wonderful energy that sits with us for a while and then moves on. Well, I have a feeling there are some great minds in the musical theater that moved on into Charles when he was born, and thank God, thank God that young people are as passionately committed to this art form as he is, and I'm thrilled to know him. I'm thrilled that he chose me to do this little show with these wonderful people who I've worked with before. Meg Bussard, I'm his dear friend.
Oh God, do I love her?
Yeah, Meg, wonderful lady and singer, and of course Leroy, and then Len. My God, Len is legend. I can remember sitting there watching, night music early up in Boston, of course, with he and Larry guitar doing those wonderful duets, and also Sweeney. Sweeney here. Len studied with my great voice teacher, Paul Gabbard, as did a lot of the earlier people in the 70s and 80s. And so I feel he's family, and I'm looking forward to being with him.
I want to ask, when you set out in this business, and did you have a game plan as to how you wanted to pursue this business? I mean, you went to AMDA, and you celebrate these incredible women along the way. And I want to mention a few of the women: Betty Buckley, Bernadette Peters, Donna McKechnie. Oh my God! I mean, Angela Lansbury, Patti LuPone. The list just goes on and on and on. Ethel Merman. These great experiences of working with these great artists. And as I said, and they worked with you as well.
Yeah. What a gift. What a gift. As I said early on, my father was a drinker, and he was sort of a rager as well. So I always found it easier to be comfortable with and relate to women. So a lot of my mentoring and growing up really happened with women and not men, because men scared me. And I work on that today. I have a lot of wonderful male friends now, but it took me a long time to be comfortable, especially with alpha males. And so right from the very beginning, these ladies and right up to today with Kelly O'Hara and Mauro Benanti, and it goes all the way from Dina and Ethel all the way up through today. And each story is very specific, and it's a story that the public doesn't know. The public, even Nancy Walker, they know from I'm Still Here and the tribute, but they don't know my special story with Nancy, and even the stories with Angela and with Patti too. Patty's the one person I have a little bone to pick with in the show. So you'll have to come. I can't give the date and the time, but because we're signing the contract.
You'll let me know, and I'll let everybody know. So
tickets will be on sale probably next week, and we'll let you know. It's going to be near Lincoln Center, and it's going to be in October. That's what I can tell you.
Oh, I can't wait. It's and I'm sure that it's going to be yet another sellout. With did you keep journals over the course of your career? Because I mean, this is a musical memoir that you're putting on stage, but it would make a great book as well.
Yeah, I thought, it's been suggested to me, and thank you for suggesting it again. While I can still sing and move a little bit on stage, I wanted to do it musically because these ladies not only were family to me in a wonderful way, but they were all exciting musical performers, and I thought the medium would be terrific as a musical first. Again, we'll see if a book happens. It's going to be after this and after the Dancing on the Moon thing happens.
That's
hopefully.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to give away a copy of When Everything Was Possible, thanks to you. And the word, each day I choose a word of the day, and the word I chose today is creativity. What does creativity mean to you, Kurt?
It means an energy that is in a person that makes them want to make something beautiful. It's a gift. It's a gift, and it should be treasured because you can damage it and you can sabotage it. But it's what made me come to New York. I admired the people who were so creative. I was awed by their creativity. I hope to be a part of it. I wanted to be around it. I think it's a gift from higher power, and it's to be taken care of, be grateful for, and be honored. And hopefully at the end of the road, it's passed on to another 13-year-old.
Charles, are you listening? I hope so. I've got some wind down questions for you.
Yeah.
Just to make fun of it, to give everyone a greater sense of you. And the first question is always a random question. I never look at it before I ask the question. So it's a surprise. And the question is, would you rather date someone you met online or go on a blind date? Have you ever done either or?
Neither.
Okay. And the next question is...
Richard, I was in the musical theater.
That tells you everything you need to know.
I was a straight man in the musical theater. Come on. I didn't have to go online or go on a blind date.
You didn't have to. The next comment is to reevaluate a long-held belief. And I want to ask, looking back over your life and career, have you changed your viewpoints on long-held beliefs that you've had on this business?
Yes, yeah. In the beginning, I was so swayed by other people's assessments of performers and shows and things, and I was so swayed by reviews and sort of the external things. And as I stayed in my career and got more and more knowledge, I began to trust myself so much more in terms of my own feelings about what is good and what is not as good, And I think that, I'm, often, sometimes my taste is totally, you can't take it to the bank and the show will close, but I do trust what I think is valuable, And I think in general, I would hope that other people would start to trust their real gut feelings about what they see and experience, because I get so cranky when I go to a show, and if two people stand up at the end of the show, the rest of the audience stands up and just says to me, the people aren't trusting. They're not trusting what they've seen, what they feel and experience. They're just being led by. And I think it goes into the big world of politics and everything else. The people just don't trust their guts and their the gifts of discernment and you know. So
Well, I'm glad you said that.
I do now. I do trust my instinct. I get it. I can be totally opposite from another person. You see 5 people seeing the show, they can all have a different story, but I trust mine for me.
Good for you. That's great. And,
Yeah.
I love that. My next question, how do you nip a bad day in the bud? If you're having a bad day, how do you end it?
Try to breathe and a fast prayer.
Good answer. Very good answer. If there's a through line in the life of Kurt Peterson, what would it be?
That he was given the opportunity to learn from his mistakes and grow.
Very good. Good. And interesting question. I've asked this question of other people. Are there any lies in Kurt Peterson? And you don't have to answer if there are any.
Lies?
Lies.
Oh, there were many, many lies in my life, and lies to people that I've tried to make amends to, and lies to myself, and I try to make amends to those too. There have been many and many, but as you said early on, I think this is a good way to sort of, if we are wrapping up, is that ethical kid. If we can find the picture, it'd be wonderful. Maybe if we can't find it tonight, you'll bring it up later. But he's the one I'm trying to go back to and honor.
Mm-hmm.
I have him out every night, and I say good night to him, and we have a little conversation about how well I did today.
I love that.
And I'm doing better now.
No, I do the same thing. That's wonderful. And the opposite of that, what are your truths?
I don't have all the answers.
Good. And what is your point of view about life in the theater?
I think it's a gift. It's a gift if we're able to be in it and experience everything that it can bring. It truly is a way of. And I'll pick a lyric from one of my dear composer friend. It's a way of being alive that when you're out there and things are really going well for you and you're connected with the people who are there with you and you share something, it's a focused way of being alive that no amount of fame, fortune, drugs, booze can give you. And hopefully it's a sharing experience and not a narcissistic one. But you're pretty alive up there. The stakes are pretty high. Yeah.
I love that. Besides drugs, what is your antidepressant?
My antidepressant?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, music.
Mine
Musical drugs.
too. Mine, Phineas Rainbow.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing.
Now, we know what you're good at, but besides the theater, what's something that you're really good at that would surprise all of us?
One thing before we go, I just want to answer that the people involved with Proud Ladies are my dear co-producer, Stephanie Skylis, who worked with me when everything was possible, my director, dear Lisa Asher, and my incredible musical conductor and composer, Ian Herman.
I love Lisa and Ian very much.
I've known them all for years and years, and to have them on this project with me, Ian's going to do a wonderful composition to open the second act, and you're going to die when you hear what he's playing. I used to paint apartments when I was between jobs as a young actor. My both grandparents had workshops, and so I would be down in them. And so nothing building-wise, painting-wise, construction-wise intimidates me. I can screw them up, but I'm never shy about doing them. And I've built a lot of things. I've redone the basement in my house and built a whole pergola in the garage. The voice studio here in the production office. My wife and I did a whole redo of the space next door, and we rebuilt it. So I like to make things pretty, and I think that's part of my creativity. And fortunately, I haven't hit myself with a hammer too much. Okay.
Wonderful. Is there anything that the opposite of that, is there anything that you're really bad at?
Handwriting. Handwriting is terrible.
Maybe it's an Aquarian trait. My handwriting is the worst.
I lose interest after the first two letters. It's the Aquarian going ahead, living in the future. Math and handwriting and detail.
And this is my last question tonight. What can you teach us that aligns with your success?
Well, just show up as much as possible. Show up, be healthy, take care of your emotional health, and then show up. And I always love what Steven Spielberg said. He was asked what he was going to say to St. Peter or whatever at the pearly gates, and I think I'll probably paraphrase him, but he said, just thank you for letting me listen. Thank you for letting me listen. And I think that if we stay healthy and stay, do the next right thing, that there'll be voices that will tell us and give us direction and give us the creativity and the ideas for things. And I think listening to those voices, but also listening to your peers and listening to your teachers, listening to, the people on the street. There's a lot of noise out there, but there's some listening that we can do that really helps us a lot.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to give away, hold on for 1 second, and I'm going to click this. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Look at all these names here.
How wonderful.
All for being here. And you can see my hands here. Mitch Morrow. Mitch, you've got to give me a call, and we'll get this to you, and I'll put you in touch with Kurt.
Yep.
So give me a call in about an hour. After I've had my dinner. So I'm going to remove this right now. Kurt, I want to, Richard at richardskipper.com. You can reach out to me, Mitch, so that I can get that information to Kurt. Kurt, this has been a real honor to have you here. I cannot wait to see your show. Every time I've seen you on stage, I've enjoyed myself immensely. So I want to thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world and that you will continue to give. My show is about celebrating artists and their body of worth. Don't go anywhere for a moment, because I'm going to give you the final word today. But again, the word that I chose today was creativity, because we are all creative beings on this planet, every single one of us. And a lot of people stifle their creativity because you've been told that you're not good enough, or that you're not this, or you're not that. Don't listen to it. It's like Sondheim says, the song, everybody says, don't. Get out there and try it. Because once you try it, you never know when you're going to have that breakthrough. Carol Channing's husband, Harry Collegian, once said that kids will not know the difference between a xylophone and a microphone if they're not exposed to them. And it's important that we put our creativity out in the world for good, not for evil, not for negativity, but for good. And I believe in celebrating each and every one of us and what we bring to the table. And that's what this show is all about. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list after tonight's show and reach out to the fifth name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. Because as my dear friend Sean Moniger always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I pulled another quote that I'm going to pull up here. And this is, I love this, from you. We're in this thing together. Aren't you glad? And I love that. So everybody, let's celebrate each other today, tomorrow, and always. And let's all get together. And let's go see Kurt when he's on stage again. So Kurt, I'm going to leave the stage and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with tonight. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the credits will roll. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. It's all yours. Thank you.
Richard, I thank you. I thank you so much for the opportunity to get to know you and to be with you tonight, and also to the people who are out there. All I'm going to say is, we're in this thing together, aren't you glad? Each day from now will be the best day you ever had. Good night.